gosh, guys. I'm so happy that you are all here. This is so exciting. So we have alien and aliens with us today, right?
Hell yeah.
Oh. Welcome to today's Indie. It's, again, so exciting to have you here. This is leaving me. I want to start off, terrible batteries on these. I would love to start off this panel by discussing with each of you your acting journey and how you got involved in this crazy business and craft.
I started, I guess, in this business about 6.5, 7 years old. I was doing modeling and things like that. And my first actual show was Zane Grey Theater, which was around in 1957, and I only know this because I found the script. My mother saved every script, and Barbara Stanwyck was my mother.
Wow.
It was very cool, and she gets shot, and they poured Hershey's syrup on her because it was black and white, and that looked like blood. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Delicious too. I did not suck her off. Then I was lucky. I was in Leave It to Beaver, and I played Violet Rutherford, Leave It to Beaver's first kiss. And Richard Deacon was the father. I also played several other characters in Leave It to Beaver. In those days, they didn't care if you'd done one character. So there was also Peggy McIntosh, and I don't know who else. It was ridiculous. But then I did a movie called The Children's Hour, and it was Shirley MacLaine and Audrey Hepburn, and James Garner's first movie, and of course it was about lesbians. The movie had been done before. It was directed by William Wyler, and it was called The Loudest Whisper. And at that point, they had to do it as if Audrey Hepburn's character, but I don't know who played it in the original movie, was having an affair with a gentleman. And of course, it was written by Daphne Maurier, and it was actually Lillian Hellman. She wrote, Lillian Hellman wrote The Children's Hour, and it was originally about lesbianism. And so I remember I auditioned for several different characters, and my mother, because a lot of the kids were pulled from doing the movie because they found out what the theme was. And my mother, we had sort of taken these little acting classes with Frank Wyka and Bill Lockwood, who did the musical theater, and he would use to help with, the scenes and things like that. So my mother said, "So this is just like Frank and Bill, only two women." Well, it seemed perfectly natural to me. I mean, they were friends. I mean, it seemed. So when I tell the lie in the movie, I'm actually telling the lie about seeing them kiss. So it was really fascinating. And from that, Alfred Hitchcock saw me in that movie and requested meeting me for The Birds. So then I did The Birds, and he was terrific, Alfred Hitchcock. He sort of, I think, thought of me as his daughter. I could ask any question. He wasn't intimidating at all. I'd ask about fake birds on the jungle gym, and wouldn't people notice that they were fake? And he said, your eye sees movement, you assume everything is alive. And you can watch that movie to this day and never figure out which are the fake birds. From that, I went into Spencer's Mountain. I just kept working. It was really incredible. I auditioned for The Sound of Music, which my sister was in, and I did not get it. And Heather Menzies got the part that I was up for, but the casting man said to me, "Don't worry, I have you in mind for something." And that was Daniel Boone. So then I ended up being on the Daniel Boone series for a while. And I just sort of have been very fortunate. If there was downtime, I got married at 19. Then I wasn't working, but my husband was he was an actor, and he was taking acting classes with, now brain fart, shit. God, I'm having a brain. Oh, Jack Garfine. There, the group theater. He was part of the original group, which was Strasberg and all those people. And it just sort of, I wasn't working. I studied with him for like 3 years. I'm British, so I decided, well, I'll move over to England. And I moved over to England, and I got that a movie called Inserts in England. And then after that, I got Going South, and then Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and then Alien, and it just started to snowball. And here I am today. Last year I was in the series The Man on the Inside, which is on Netflix,
Great.
and it's just adorable. And I just had a movie out called The Ruse, which only ran for a week, so I'm sure none of you saw that. So here I am, and still working, and I love it. This is all I want to do.
Amazing.
So,
What was Jack Nicholson like
Yeah.
as a director? And how much fun was that going south?
oh, Going South, Jack was fantastic. I mean, he's just the greatest. I mean, he's just he's a character. I mean, and we were shooting in Durango, Mexico, which is dead center, scorpion capital of the world, if you didn't know. And Jack, of course, as you know, was addicted to the Lakers. So he would have them helicoptered in the shows, and he didn't want to know anything about them. And every weekend he would open up the house to cast, crew, anybody who wanted to come see Lakers games. And he would throw these sort of wild parties that, like, it was John Belushi's first job into the movie spectrum after doing Saturday Night Live, and John was a hoot and a half. But it was all the cast from Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, it was Christopher Lloyd and Danny DeVito, who they put a big sombrero on him and a poncho and tied him onto that horse because his legs were so short. He looked like a giant mushroom sitting I tell you, and Jack was just great. And then Witches of Eastwick, I got Witches of Eastwick. It was so interesting because this was, it was interesting because I'd done that movie Inserts, which is with Richard Dreyfuss and Bob Hoskins' first movie. It was X-rated at the time, but it's NC-17 now, if anybody's interested. And you can get it on Amazon. So I go in to meet Jack Nicholson for the first interview for Going South. And he comes up and he goes, "Hi, I'm Jack." Not like, no shit. And he goes, "Come down into my office." And of course, everybody heard stories between him and Warren Beatty. I mean, there were 50 million stories. And he's like, "Oh shit, here I am, Jack Nicholson." And I'm going to the office. And I'm walking down the hall, and it was at Paramount Studios, and they were very narrow passage. And he goes, "I loved you in Inserts." At which point, I turned vermilion. Jack goes,
You didn't wear a lot of clothes in Inserts either, did you?
No, I didn't. He didn't mention any of that. But, no, what can I say? So he goes, "I loved you in Inserts." I blush, and he goes, "Oh, I love a woman who blushes." I thought, oh my God, this is just unbelievable. But by the time I finished with my interview, he took my picture and put it on the wall. And of course, Danny and Christopher were on. He goes, "You're one of my gang." Of course, I was so excited. I called the agent when I got there. I said, "Jack Nicholson wants me to be in this movie Going South." And he goes, "Oh, well, they can all say that. You know, wait and see." But I'll be damned if I didn't get a call. And there I was, Durango, Mexico. And then to get Witches of Eastwick, I did not know this, but Jack was the one who insisted that my character was actually the fourth witch, because she's the one who realizes that he is the devil. And so, and then of course he tortures me because he can't have me telling everybody that I know he's the devil. And so when I was signing the contract, George Miller says to me, "You know, you have a real fan in Jack." He was the one who suggested that I meet you in the first place. And so, I mean, he's just a sweetheart. And then I did another movie with him. He's an amazing person, but he is there for off camera for everything. And he wears his outfits. He wears his wardrobe, and he's off camera. I went to visit when he was doing the stuff with the 3 ladies at the end with the kids and everything. There he is in his pink outfit, you know. He just to be there, just so that his presence was there, so they had somebody to work off of.
A real actor.
He's just a true actor. It's incredible. Because we've all worked with actors who, when it comes to off camera, they just sort of don't give you anything. And there are some stories in Hollywood about people giving entirely different performances when it comes around to them on camera. And you thought you were doing it one way, and they give you an entirely, so you're never on camera because the other performance is entirely different. So, but not Jack. He's there all the way, so he's great.
I just want to make sure, like, if you don't know what off camera means, a lot of times when you're shooting, you'll shoot singles. So let's say the 2 of us are doing a shot here together. They'll do a shot of her or you, and I'll stand next to the camera. So I'm not being filmed at all. The film it's only on her. So, but I'm the other actor in the show, so they've already done like a master and a 2 shot of us, but they go into singles. I'm not, you don't see me, you're just tight on her. So I cozy up next to the camera, and they call that off camera. So we play the scene, and then they'll turn around and they'll put the camera on the other side, and sometimes they shoot over the shoulder to kind of tie you together. And so, when the camera's on me, then it'll be her turn to be off camera. And so what Veronica was talking about a lot of times is actors have a tendency to do their best work when the camera's on them.
I think my best work is off camera. I'm so determined to give them everything. It's just ridiculous.
Relaxed, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah. All of a sudden things happen. You go, shit, why didn't I think of that when I was on camera?
Well, that is quite a story, huh?
Well, and sometimes you get into situations where you'll be in a car, or you'll be in a very tight, enclosed area, and you've got a camera in there, you've got an operator, you've got a focus puller, you've got maybe the director in there, and sometimes there just isn't room for the actor to do the off-camera for you. So sometimes they'll just take a piece of tape and they'll put it on the edge of the camera, on the camera frame, and instead of, and then maybe the director will just read the lines that the actress has. So there are times where there is no, you're not even playing to anybody, but it's all acting, it's all like make-believe anyway, so, but that happens sometimes where you don't have anybody to do your off-camera.
Or the script supervisor does it.
Right.
And the script supervisor.
Script supervisor, if there's room,
But they're doing the off
Sure,
camera.
There's some actors that
And they're sitting over there by the video machine.
don't do off camera. Have you ever worked with like an actor that doesn't do off camera?
No, but Jack did when we did Witches of Eastwick and oh, secret. Cher did not want to do off camera. And she says, and Jack goes, no, you have to do the off camera. She said, I don't like doing it. And he says, well, tough shit. And he embarrassed her in front of everybody. He says, you will learn that you are going to do off camera.
Okay.
And so
Was that
was there.
early in Cher's career or was not, was it?
no, she'd already done
Late 80s, right?
Moonlight or Moonstruck, whatever it was. Yeah.
I did a
But she
TV
didn't
show.
like doing off camera.
Yeah, I did a TV show and it was a guest star and the lead didn't do my off camera.
What show? Name it. Who was it that did
It
it?
was MacGyver.
Oh, the guy.
Oh, really?
Well, sometimes when you've been on a show for
You know, it was the
20
last. It
years,
was the
it's-
very last season because I'm a series killer. I do the last. Nothing goes when I go on. Last season of
Show's
24.
over.
It's over.
Show's over.
It's over.
Jeanette's here, we're canceled.
This is so true.
Maybe that's
Oh,
why he didn't do
because
your
I
off
love
camera.
Exactly. It's like, oh
Saw you
shit.
coming.
So,
Because it doesn't make any difference anyway, right?
Okay, Jenette, let's go to you. How did this crazy journey start for you?
oh my God. Well,
How can we follow that?
I know,
right?
I know. I didn't even know. I mean, I know. But one con, I had no idea when you said that you were the kid in the children's hour, and I thought you were joking. Anyway,
This is why I love this
incredible.
question. Everyone's answer is so completely different.
Incredible. So I grew up, you know, in Hollywood with actors and you know, who were my friends' parents and things like that. But I did not come from an acting family. And my grandmother was like, "Don't you ever put her on camera." Grandmother, she was just very. I don't know why she said that, but I didn't want to do that anyway. But what I wanted to do was pretend and play act, and I went to the theater a lot. I loved the theater, live theater. When the curtain went up, it was just like magic. It was just, my God. And so I started, you know, just kind of doing plays and doing that in school. And then in high school, you know, I actually learned that you could, you know, go to acting college to do it. And I just thought, because my family was like, "You better go to college." And I was like, "Well, I'll go to an acting college then." And so I decided I loved Shakespeare, and I was you know, to play different types of characters, you know, actors. We would go see repertory theater. And so I went to New York to Circle in the Square, and for a couple of years, and then I went over to London and did a postgraduate year there, and I stayed in London. At that point I was married to my English boyfriend, and I was doing, you know, fringe theater and lots of different things, and a one-person show and doing all that. And then well, I saw just an ad in the, you know, the paper, the acting paper, where if they advertise it, it's already cast. One of those kind of, you know, and they were looking for Americans or North Americans with a British equity card, which I had just gotten, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, see, I had my equity card too.
Do you still?
Because, well, when
Yeah,
I
it was
did,
hard in those
I
days.
did inserts over there, but they
Yeah.
wanted somebody with an American accent because it was all set in Hollywood. It was supposed to be Hollywood. And Bob Hoskins, his first job, it was hysterical trying to have him do an American accent. I mean, you know, we couldn't
You
get
said you're
people
British,
more
but
cocky.
did you grow up in the United
No,
States?
well, we left there when I was like 4 and a half, and
Oh,
then
okay.
we moved to Canada. And, but I used to go back and forth all the time. And so when they were casting Alien, I had auditioned in Hollywood, but I thought, well, if they're still casting it, because I was going over anyway, see if that part was still available. So I auditioned again with Ridley, and then I ended up getting it. And I think what helped was that I was American, but British, but had an American accent, and I could be part of the quota. Because
Right,
you can
right.
only have so many actors from America. So that was Tom and Harry Dean and Yaphet. And then I was
You were British.
I
You
was
were-
classified as British.
Right. That's how. Yeah.
Let me just ask you a question. So you were cast in that as a British equity and not Screen Actors Guild?
No, I was
You-
cast as an American
Oh,
actor,
and-
but because I was British, they allowed it through British Equity to
Oh,
work,
I see, okay.
work there. And then,
Okay.
but I got my British Equity card after that.
I don't know if you know this. Jeanette certainly does.
Oh, yeah. You owe me lots of dinners.
So what happened on Aliens is that myself, Sigourney, Bill Paxton, Paul Reiser,
And Lance.
and Lance Henriksen were all Americans, and we all worked for our union, which was SAG. And everybody else in the movie, Jenette, Mark Ralston, Rico, every other actor in that movie worked under a
British equity. We were all, so that's why they said they needed to fill their quota. I guess they finished it, or nearly. And so then they were searching for any Canadian, American, anyone who could.
Well, I didn't have a British equity, but I was British. I had a British.
Yeah. Oh, you're British citizen. Oh, yeah. I guess it would be the same.
So,
I just don't mean.
Well, Mark Ralston, he was part of that group of Americans that went over to England and was.
Yeah, he was married. Yeah, he was
part
married.
of that. There was a whole theater company group.
But,
there.
but what happens? And
gonna tell the sad part now.
Aliens was such a successful movie that it did well in the theaters, and actors get something called residuals, which is I made much more money on the residuals of Aliens than I did when I made the movie Aliens. And so Sigourney gets the biggest piece of pie of the residuals, and then the rest of us split it all up. But
what he's trying to
Jenette,
say,
Mark, Rico, nobody else got any residuals.
and that's why, and that's why, so the pie was bigger for them, and that's well in those days, British equity allowed that to be a negotiating point, and whereas SAG there was no, you don't negotiate, you're away your residuals, and that was the thing. It was anyway.
Oh, well, I was SAG.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But they could sort of fudge it because they said, "Oh, but she's British."
I don't think they do that anymore. I think it's.
I
But,
don't think
I'm
so.
sure that
There was
they-
19.
no, they changed the thing. But also, they don't hire Americans anymore because all the British do all the accents. They don't hire.
They used to be terrible.
and now they're actually really
Now they're
good.
really good. We hate them.
Anyway, what was that? So anyway, that's how I got into Aliens. But what she was saying was that the thing about, I've told the story a gazillion times, but it said it was for a movie called Aliens. And I remember 1 second I thought, oh, and Alien, that was a great movie. I saw that. It was like 8 years ago, whatever. I was like, oh, they want British, they want non-English people. It must be a movie about when you get your resident alien card. It's called, that's what they call your green card in Britain, is your resident alien. So I thought it was, it's about, the underground, green card, and I just was like, yeah, because I didn't have an agent. I didn't have an agent, and I had just been working, and so I walked in and I didn't know who anybody was, Gail. It's so embarrassing because I saw her, it was her in her office, and she's so young. She's 29. Gail Ann Hurd,
who was married to Jim Cameron and
who produced
Oh, that's right.
and produced the movie.
Yeah, so I walked into the office and she had the big poster of Terminator on the wall, and I had just seen it. I just seen the movie in the movies, and I just figured, I don't know who she was the receptionist or whatever, and I was like, oh man, I saw that movie. It was so good. And she goes, yeah, that's ours. And I was like, ours? I was so, like, I better shut up and not say anything. I was just, too afraid to say, who are you? What is this? And then that's when she said, do you have any idea what this film's about? I said, I don't. So I said, well, did you see Alien? Oh, yeah. Well, this is the second part. I thought, oh, my God, And, it's about Marines that go back, and we're casting for the Marines and things like that. So, yeah, anyway.
Michael, tell me about your journey.
My journey is really, I grew up in Nebraska, and when I was 18 or 19, I moved to Los Angeles because I thought I wanted to be an actor. And
how did you
want
to do that? Why did you think you wanted to be an actor for them?
Well, actually, I went to. I did some children's theater when I was in Nebraska, and I actually went to high school in Arizona, and I was the dean of the drama department at the University of Arizona. Happened to see me in a play that I was doing, and I was more of a kind of a jock, I was not a real theater person, but he saw me in a place, so he offered me a scholarship to the University of Arizona. So I got books and tuition, which at that time really didn't mean that much, but it kind of gave me a direction. And I went there and proceeded to, party my way and girlfriend my way through maybe the first semester, and after that I was like, my father was a lawyer, my mother was a doctor, my brother was in law school, and I was like the loser who dropped out of college. So
To become an actor.
What? Yeah,
Become an actor.
that's right. So I decided I would move to Los Angeles and become an actor. And I moved there in probably 75 or 76. And, I was a pretty young thing. At the time, I was a very pretty young thing. And I've said this many times before, there were a lot of gay casting people, there were a lot of gay agents, there were a lot of gay producers and directors, and they liked me. They just liked me. And even though I was not gay, they still liked to have me around. And so one of the first movies that I got, which was a big movie, and I had worked quite a bit up until that time, was a movie called The Fan. And The Fan was originally directed by a man named Boris Hussein, who was gay. My agent was gay, Ed Romano. And
Ed.
yeah. Ed,
I was with Ed at one point, yeah.
Ed is fantastic, and Ed and I became very, very, very close. But we made it for Robert Stigwood, who was gay. Kevin, the producer, and there was like, and the movie didn't really particularly do very well, but I've looked back over the years at like when I very, very first started, I did a couple of pilots. I was a little bit like you. Every time I was on a pilot, it never went anywhere. I did a few what they call pilots, and then I did things like an ABC afternoon special, which was kind of usually nice material. Remember the show Family? Remember that show Family? I did an episode of Family. I did some like television movies, and then I got a kind of a sex exploitation movie called The Coach with a woman named Kathy Lee Crosby, and that was just kind of like a B movie. And then I started, Hill Street Blues. I did a really, really good a show, it's like a 4-hour show called Deadly Intentions that was based on a true character. And right around that time was sort of when the Terminator was going on, and that's when I think the best thing that ever happened to me, because people talk about luck, it was lucky that I was able to audition for Jim Cameron. So I was able to get in front of Jim Cameron and audition for him. It could have been I wouldn't have been available. It might have been I was shooting something else. I was out of town, or And so after that happened, things got a lot easier for me. Because after he did the Terminator, and I got very, very close to Jim when we were doing the Terminator, and then when these guys went off to do Aliens, there was another actor that was going to play Hicks, and his name was James Remar, and Remar had a drug problem, and he got into trouble. Let's just put it that way, and is the way that I understand it, the English government kind of went, well, we don't really want this guy in town. So I knew they were shooting the movie because Bill was in it. And I, of course, it was very close with Bill. I did 5 movies with Bill Paxton. And Aliens was one of them, but at the time, I knew they were shooting, but I got a call on a Thursday, and it was Gail Hurd, Jim's wife. Jim and Gail were boyfriend and girlfriend when they did The Terminator. They were married when they did Aliens, and they were divorced when we did The Abyss. Thank you. And don't know my own movies.
It makes perfect sense.
But anyway, Gail called me on Thursday, and she said, Michael, we're having to replace James Remar, who's playing Hicks, and would you be interested in coming over here? I was like, yes, yeah, absolutely. So that Monday morning, I was on the set, all geared up and, you know, wardrobed up, and the armor that we all wear was designed by each actor. Each actor, Jim said, here's your armor, you can write on it whatever you want. Jenette did her own thing, and Bill Paxton did his own thing, and Remar did the heart with the lock through it on, and so they gave me his armor to wear, and I immediately said to Jim Cameron that, like, I felt that red, pinkish, round circle looked like a bullseye to me, and I didn't want to wear it. And Jim said, well, we've shot a little bit with him, and I really appreciate it if you would wear it. When Jim says, I'd really appreciate it if you did do it my way. Okay.
I mean, we showed up in the morning, and Bill Paxton was like white as a goat. I mean, he was like shaking, and he was like, oh, fuck, man. And we're like, what's going on? He goes, I can't even, because he was with Remar the night that it happened, and so he almost got caught up in the drag. I mean, he, you know, not a drug addict at all. I mean, but they were out.
There.
He was there, and he was like, and he goes, I can't talk. And it was like all this, like,
Guilty by association.
well, he didn't want to say what had happened. He couldn't say what had happened. You know, it was this just bizarre. Something had happened, and then all of a sudden, you showed up. And they said, well, okay, this is now, something has happened, and we are now going to be reshooting with this actor here. You all know. I mean, it was just, it was like.
And now we can't picture anyone else in that role, right?
Yeah, and it was interesting. They were very different. I mean, Remar's a great actor. I mean, he's really great, and very different. You know, that low voice, tough thing. He has a whole. So it was a different type of Hicks, and then you have that whole different, you know, aura and the softness and the, you know, the whole thing about you.
When we did Alien, we shot the first day with John Hurt's part. Is it off?
No. Yeah. I heard you tell. Go ahead.
Well, John Hurt, originally it was John Finch, who had done another Hitchcock movie, and he was playing the part that John Hurt eventually did. But John Finch had just gotten out of the hospital from having severe pneumonia. So, of course, Ridley loves to work with smoke. And in those days, it was beeswax, and it was constant. And by the time we shot because we shot the whole engine room blowing up and trying to land and all of that stuff. And by the time we finished that, John was back in the hospital. And so the next thing I know, the next day, John Hurt arrives, and he's now playing the part, and I looked at him and I thought, oh shit, we look like clones of each other. He had a crew cut, he had the same complexion I did, and thousands of friends. I mean, it was hysterical. I thought, oh my goodness, what a difference. But anyway, we ended up with John Hurt, who was fabulous. But I mean, it was the same sort of a thing. You start shooting, and then all of a sudden, overnight, there's another actor. It's weird. It's weird.
So I do want to give the audience a chance to ask some questions before we have to go. Pippa.
All right. This question is for Veronica. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. And obviously it had so much great talent: Donald Sutherland, Leonard Nimoy, Jeff Goldblum. Do you have any favorite memories with any or even all of them from that movie?
Okay, well, this is one of my favorite ones, is Donald Sutherland decided that his character was to have curly hair. And but he didn't want to get a perm. He had had a bad perm on something else he'd done. So he decided that he would opt for having his hair set in little pink permanent rods every morning. And then we were shooting in San Francisco, which meant he would have to have a touch-up of pink permanent rods. in the afternoon. So all of our rehearsals with Donald, who's like 6'3" or 4", in pink permanent rods, all of our rehearsals were him with these curlers in his hair. It was ridiculous. And then of course we'd do, he'd take, but Donald was such a hoot and a half. He took us out the very first day, Brooke and myself. He goes, I'm taking my ladies out. And he took us up to the Fairmont Hotel, and he ordered a bottle of Cristal champagne, which if you've never had Cristal, it is like the best.
Uh-huh.
And so then they came out and they said, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. We don't have any Cristal. We could give you some. Nope, that's it. Up we go. Off we went to another hotel. And sure enough, that hotel had Cristal. So that was the first time of having Cristal. Jack Nicholson, I mean, he doesn't drink, but he will drink Cristal. And of course, Jeff Goldblum. I mean, he was married at the time. And first off, we were sent down because we were supposed to run this mud bath. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie. But they sent us to Doc Brown's in San Francisco outside where you had to have mud baths. And so we were separated. And I don't know if any of you had a mud bath. It is the weirdest thing. But people swear by it. It's supposed to be. They you strip down, you're naked. They sort of hose you off. And then they take you and put you on this huge pizza pallet and shove you into this bathtub with this lava. And then they start throwing it at you and going, move around in there, move around in there. Well, all the heat, it's hot, so the heat makes you fart. So here you are, you're farting away, and then you go moving around in there, there's clumps of something. You don't know what it is. But, okay, and you're in there for about a half an hour moving around with this lava. Well, we assumed it was lava, but after the farting we weren't sure. Then they hose you off. I mean, and then they stick you into this, like a hose with, like, taking the, then they shove you in a room and wrap you up like a bed, like a mummy, and you have to be there for half an hour. And I go, please uncover my feet. Please, because I couldn't stand it on my feet. But anyway, we come out, you're glowing, you're absolutely glowing. And Jeff, the first words he says to me, oh, I don't know how sanitary that was. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. Oh, God. And then we had to go off and have dinner with the whole cast and Phil Kaufman, who's he's a sweetheart. But then it's hysterical. But they also sent me to Swedish massage classes because I'm supposed to massage them. I did not know they were going to give me this rather rotund man. But I was practicing massages. Oh, I practiced on, Christopher Lloyd. And he brought that up last time. I said, and he gave me that massage. That was good.
And he blushed.
I blushed. But I practice on all my friends, and then I go in there, and there's this rotund man. I could hardly get my arms around him. I'm going like this. It's just ridiculous. I tell you, we had so much fun on that movie. And then we became known as the Dancing Belichicks, because as we would go, Jeff and I would run back and forth, to see the thing, and the curtains are going, and we're like tap dance again, and tap dance again. It was so ridiculous. I had a ball on that movie, and Phil he's just the best. It's great. So.
I always ask for the whole panel, even if you don't want to say stole it, out of the movie Aliens, you guys keep any props? Do you have anything from the movies that you wore?
No.
No.
I'm a good girl.
No. We didn't even have a wrap party. I do know that Harry Dean wanted to split having hats, the Nostromo hats, no, they didn't want to put out the money he was going to split it with them.
They didn't have a party for us for
And
the
I
premiere,
threw
but
the
it was Sigourney. She's the one, because they had a hotel room because they'd flown her out. So everybody comes, she ordered everything and said it's on them.
Well, I had the wrap party at my house that I lived in, and the prop guy said, "Oh, my brother's a DJ. he came out, he DJ'd it. My boyfriend at the time, who was cooking for Jack Nicholson, he went down, we got all the tequila, he got all the stuff. I mean, we had a Mexican party with margaritas. Everybody was like beside themselves. I invited all the neighborhood too, because it was going to be a little loud. And I ended up with 6 bodies on my floor the next morning. I mean, everybody just, and Ridley came, which was surprising. He fell down a flight of stairs. He was so shit-faced. Our Garfunkel showed up. All these people just showed up. It was a great party. And we invited, what's his name? That great director who, Parker. Alan Parker. We had invited him because our makeup people had all worked with Alan Parker, and so he was invited to come, but he didn't. But I met Alan Parker on some job, and he goes, "Wait a minute, you're the one that threw that big party I was invited to." So word got around. It was a good party.
Bill Paxton and I had a rap party every night, so during the production.
Yeah.
Question right there.
Yes, during one of Vasquez's lines in Aliens, she just says, I only need to know one thing, where they are. And Hicks is in the background of that, saying her line. Is that something that you did, is memorize their, sorry I brought it up. Is that something you did? You memorized everyone's lines?
No. Jenette and I talked about this about 3 or 4 months ago.
I didn't know. I mean, obviously he's behind my head, but in the photograph, I see him there, and his mouth is like open, and I was just like, "Hey, look, your mouth. What are you?" And he like, "No, I was doing your lines. Why were you doing my lines?" I said it every time.
I think that that I made the choice at the time, and it's kind of un-Hicks-like. It's not really. If I had to do it over again, I just wouldn't have done it. But for me as an actor at that time, and I don't even remember making the decision, but it's like I've heard this before. Just show you know.
Her shtick.
That's all, I've heard this before, and that's all I can say is that Jim Cameron would not have let me or wanted me to do that. He had to have noticed that.
Right, he would have.
He would have said, like, "Can that, Michael?"
Yeah.
Don't, like, you know. And it basically was like, "Oh, I've heard this many, many times before." One of the interesting things I thought about Aliens when I went over there, of course, is we used to shoot on film, and we used to shoot with big cameras, and everything was on a camera. The very first time I ever saw a director using a monitor, meaning that they weren't just standing next to the camera, looking and going, "Okay, I think we've got that. Check with the camera guy. Did we get that focus? Everything good? Okay, let's move on." Was Jim. When we were doing Aliens, Jim had a little square box. It was about as long as this microphone. It looked kind of like this microphone, except for it was square. And it was long, and the end of it couldn't have been any bigger than about 4 inches by 4 inches. And Jim used to walk around and look at that. And so we're setting up to do a scene, just like we're setting up to do here. And instead of like watching the acting, he's staring at this tiny little box, and he would play this. We would do the scene, and he was more interested in the framing and seeing that, and obviously he could tell that the performances were good, but I had never seen that before, and it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit that he'd do a close-up on me, and instead of looking at me, he'd be looking at this little tiny little thing in his hand and go, "All right, you good, Mike? All right, good. All right, moving on, But that's the first time I ever saw it. Now, of course, they have what they call Video Village that everybody sits behind. They've got like these huge screens. The camera operators actually walk around with screens on their cameras, right? And then so they're walking around, and they have the same same what? Framing. What? Yeah, they have that. It's same, and it looks like a little TV. So it's changed a lot, but I remember that there's and Cameron always did everything first, but that was the first time I ever saw anybody ever look at anything other than the actors. Because, we used to go to dailies. Now they, you don't even, I wouldn't even think they have dailies. That was when they would.
Well, we didn't see any of the dailies. Very rarely did we see any of the dailies in Alien. But after the chest bursting scene, they invited us all to go and see the chest bursting scene, which I thought was like really cool. But the most ridiculous thing, and apparently they found this, when I leaned into the blood jet that hit me in the face, and I go, oh my God, I backed up and my knees hit the banquette, and I flipped upside down, and there were 2 cowboy boots stuck up behind. And then this is me going, oh shit, they're still shooting. I roll over, I run back in so that I could still be finished. But it looked like a Max Sennett movie. We all burst out laughing. It was dun dun dun, and I disappeared. Just gone. It was so stupid. Oh God. But somebody found that footage.
I had a follow-up question. Vasquez has an accent.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something you chose to do as an actor, or is that something Jim wanted?
No, the character was a Chicana,
Okay.
and I'm from, so I did the accent that she would have. Yeah.
Now I'm done. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. That one.
This is for both Jenette and Michael. Obviously, you guys have mentioned it a couple times, but you both worked with the late great Bill Paxton. I feel like a lot of people have a favorite Bill Paxton story. Do you guys have any from either on set or off with him?
That you can tell us.
Well, when you said he was very close to Remar during that drug bust and everything that went down, Bill and I, I've got a story. It would take me too long to tell, but I've got a story that is just unbelievable about Bill and I almost getting busted a week after I came in to replace Remar. I mean, it was shockingly close to getting caught. We were smoking marijuana. We weren't. I think Remar was doing heroin and stuff. But here's the story that I've told before. And Bill and I did a movie together called Lords of Discipline. Okay. Lord's Discipline was the very first movie. He's actually, his billing in the movie, Michael Biehn, Keith David, or Wild Bill Paxton, that was his billing in the movie. It was being directed by a guy named Frank Rodham, who was a really, really good guy and a good director. He had directed a movie called Quadrophenia, which is a very, very interesting movie that Sting is in, and The Who does the soundtrack, and it was all very interesting. So we played cadets, and we were out shooting, and a lot of times, about 90% of the time that you're an actor, you're waiting around to do a shot. So you'll rehearse a shot, and they'll spend an hour lighting it, and you're waiting around. And so there's a lot of waiting around as an actor. And we were shooting at a place called Wellington College in England. And so we have we do this. And I don't have any dialogue in the scene. Bill doesn't have any dialogue in the scene. We probably just walk by or whatever. But it's going to be an hour, so relax for a while. So Bill says to me, "Hey, Michael, you want to do some blow?" And I was kind of young. I wasn't that knowledgeable about it, but I was like, I'm always that guy's like, yeah, sure, whatever it is, I'll try it. Yeah, I'll take it. And so I said, yeah, okay, let's go do some cocaine.
And she's 1985. No, 84. No, this must have been 80. I forgot. I don't know. I was two years before. Anyway, Lords of Discipline. It'll have the year that we made it. So anyway, so Bill and I go. It was an exterior shot, so we were shooting exterior, and Bill and I go into the college, into Wellington College, and we go into the college, and we go like up 3 floors, and then turn right, went down the hallway, and then turn. And we wanted to get lost, right? And so we did. We got lost, and so Bill pulls out his little thing of coke, and he's putting out lines, and like we're doing lines of cocaine and laughing and having a great time, and just right in the middle of having just such a great time, and all of a sudden we hear, "Hello, gentlemen," and we turned around, and it was Frank Rodham, the director of the movie. And he looked at us and he said, "I hope you left a little bit for me." True story.
Was he
Bill
just?
was no angel. He was a wonderful guy in many, many different ways, but none of us, certainly me, but he was no angel.
No, he definitely Wild Bill. But I'll tell something that he liked to keep a secret, because that was his whole idea. That was his thing on Wild Bill. Is that so when he'd go on set, he knew everybody's name, the crew member, and like he always remembers someone's name and shook their hand, and you're like, wow, how does he remember all? And he said to me, he's a Southern gentleman. His father. I don't know if you ever met his father, but he said, no, I go with the sheet and I memorize everyone's name. The grip, the this, and I'm prepared. And then I go on and it's like Easy Bill, like hey, so. A lot of that kind of, he was, knew what he was doing. It wasn't just, he just was not winging it.
It's true. Like when I did the Children's Hour, going way, way back, and Shirley MacLaine these are the days when you would film people doing their wardrobe. And I'm sitting there, because I played Rosalie, and we were told not to hang out when Shirley's around because of her language. And but I was put in this chair, and I'm watching Shirley MacLaine on a pedestal, and just turning slowly. Oh shit, that's my alarm. Turning slowly, but she is cracking jokes and talking to the crew, I thought, this is what it's all about. You need every single crew member is making you look good. And I thought to myself at 11 years old, this is what it's all about. You need to be friendly with all of the crew and everything. And she was like, sort of in a weird way, my mentor. She was fabulous to me. I mean, I have a big breakdown scene in the thing, and she would come over and give me hints, like, don't cry at this point because your face is in a pillow, wait until, and then I have this huge breakdown, and she is the first one there hugging me and said, that was like wonderful, honey, and I was hyperventilating. William Wyler just sort of pushed me beyond what I was supposed to be. I don't even know if you call it acting, but it was just happening. And they got me a dressing room, and she had bringing in ice packs. I mean, she was just incredible. But years later, I was doing a play on Hollywood and Vine, and they were doing the Christmas parade, and she was doing the one-woman show down on Wilshire Boulevard. So I thought, well, they had to be dark for the night so the parade could happen. So I thought, I'm going to go down and see Shirley MacLaine's show. Oh, I mean, she was magnificent. So I went backstage, and I asked if I could see Shirley. And they said, well, who are you? And I said, well, I did a movie with you years ago called The Children's Hour. I just wondered. He comes out, and he goes, all right, Shirley, we'll see you. And as I walked in, she's standing there like this. And she says, I have followed your career. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I had a dream of Shirley walking from one end, I walked from one end of this pool in Vegas. I mean, I don't know. And over to tell her what an impression she had made on me and how important she had been to me. And I said to her, and I had a dream. It's so weird because she'd written all that dream book about past lives and everything like that. It was so fascinating. But no, it was really incredible. But it's that same sort of a thing where
professional.
she knew everybody's name and all of that, and how important each person is on that set to making you what you are. So, and when we did Alien, it was the only time I have ever been on a set where the entire crew struck. We worked really long hours. We were out at Shepperton. I don't think you were out there. You were at Pinewood, right?
Yeah.
Which is much closer in. Shepperton is like an hour out of London, and because we had to use every sound stage, and so we were working. Must have been about 3 months in, and the crew went to the producers and they said, at 5:30 on Friday we're pulling the plug because we need a weekend. Because once we finished, they still had to wrap up and then drive an hour and a half home. So so at 5:30, after they'd finished the shot, they go, okay, boys, everything, boom, all the lights, and they're just wrapping up the cables and everything like that. Producers come running down, you can't do this. Oh no, we can't. We told you we were going to. Well, Ridley's willing to work, and they're just looking at all like unison. When he is always willing to work. I mean, he was just. I mean, he could go all night long. He was just unbelievable.
Jim Cameron.
No, Jim Cameron too. I mean, between the two, and it was so weird because Ridley gives you very little direction. He's more interested in what the look is and what it looked like, and he was always behind the camera, telling Dylan Van Dyke what to do, and I mean, it was incredible. I mean, we get directions like when I slap Sigourney across the face. Every time I went to slap her across the face, she'd duck. So my direction was just fucking get her this time. I said, okay, so I go like this, and and I backhand her. Oh my God, the look on her face. Instant water in the eyes. I mean, she was not a happy kid, but it worked.
Backhanded her.
Well, get her this time. Okay. Boom. She went straight into it. Oh my God. So that wasn't in the original cut, but that's in the director's cut.
Right. Okay, guys. Well, we are out of time, but thank you all so much for coming. And Veronica, oh my God, thank you for joining us on this